Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition is not Divinity Original Sin with some DLC. It is a full-on director's cut style revamp with new dialogue, new story elements, literally redone levels and dungeon areas, new journal system, and actually, yeah, there is a little bit of DLC in there as well. My name's Mike Williams, and this is Jake Kulkowski.
Yes, it is.
My friend and ally, the Robert Baratheon to my Ned Stark. Jake, Jake, we've both thoroughly played Divinity Original Sin 2 Normal Edition on the PC, haven't we?
Yeah, we have quite a lot together, alone, everything in between.
What's in between 1 and 2? 1.5?
1 and 2 and Liam. 3.
Well, Liam's 3. Liam's beyond 2.
So Liam's an addition, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, the definitive edition of Divinity Original Sin 2 has just come out. It was a free update for anyone who owned it on PC. That is now the version of the game that you can buy on PC, and it's also on PS4 and Xbox One. Divinity Original Sin 2 itself has been out on PC for about a year now. It came out near the end of 2017.
Yeah,
and
about August, September time, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a CRPG, if you're unfamiliar with that kind of genre. Tell them about CRPGs, Jake.
CRPGs are computer role-playing games, so they're based on the pen and paper sort of stuff. So everything that you know from like Dungeons and Dragons should be in there. There's always a party. There's normally roles. There's attribute points. There's level up. Yeah. It's kind of like a character sheet sort of thing.
There's always a party could be a bit misleading.
Yeah. Well, every day's a party in Driftwood, baby.
Yeah, when it comes to CRPGs, am I right?
Yeah. It's that very traditional Dungeons and Dragons sort of style look at RPGs as opposed to action RPGs. I think people were even calling God of War an RPG. It's not like God of War. It's more like Dungeons and Dragons.
So you'll know when you're looking at it, you'll know what we're talking about. It's kind of that isometric view, and there's turn-based combat, lots of dialogue. It's a long game. It's about 60 hours, I would say. I think something like that.
Yeah,
that's just loose ballpark though. You could spend ages in this game. We spent 15 in the playthrough that you, me, and Liam did. It was about 15 hours in, and we'd finished basically the starting area.
Yeah, we're about 50 hours in, and we were like halfway through the second area. Yeah. 50.
Because we're playing it co-op, we're playing it a particular way. We're having a laugh and stuff.
We're having fun, which is a key element of games.
It makes me doubt myself when I say we're having fun with it and stuff. Like anyone who says that, like, are you really though? Is everyone else, or is it just you, Mike?
Probably, like, I've been playing it by myself, not as much fun as playing it co-op.
Nice
and
one.
I'm about 30 hours in, and I'm nearly where we were 50 hours in. See, so
yes, I see.
And that's about. I'm not quite halfway through the game yet. So you're right. A lot of hours in this game. Well, if you care about the hour to dollar metric, then I can assure you...
Who doesn't?
Yeah, and then you can have a nice time of it. But hey, that's not the only reason you can have a nice time of it, is it?
No, of course. So it's a big game, and the definitive edition is the closest thing is kind of a director's cut, like I said in the intro there. It's because it's not just like you'd get with a lot of AAA games and stuff these days, where it's just the game with a couple of patches and like all the DLC from the season pass.
Yeah.
There is no season pass. They've just chucked a little bit of DLC content in there as a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
And then essentially the game has been vastly redone.
Yeah, because the DLC is like exclusive to this edition. There hasn't been any in the year between, right? Which is different to most games. And they've redone it because like they just obviously love the game and love the fan base and stuff like that. They should be finished with it. Most people finish a game and then leave it, and then they release the post content DLC stuff and whatever. But no, Larian Studios have obviously looked at the feedback, looked at the critiques, which and the criticism has been mostly geared towards the last third of the game.
Story related, narrative related.
Yeah. And this isn't something like, you see a lot of games make a revamped version of a game because there was a lot of issues they need to address.
Yeah.
People seem to think it's a game that's got 60 on Metacritic that needs to get addressed. But no, this isn't the case with Divinity Original Sin. This is a game that is stomped onto the top of best game of the year lists everywhere. 9s, 10s, hugely successful game. You look at how it's done critically, they could leave that forever and it would be up there.
Yes.
As high, the score is as high as Baldur's Gate 2. But that's not enough for them, obviously. They've gone, now we can do better. And they have.
Yeah. This is essentially a team of perfectionists who are just being perfectionists, basically. They've had a year, they've made this game, they've had a year, and they've been improving it. So let's talk about those improvements. And the biggest and most important is the addition of Sir Laura, the Squirrel Knight, who is indeed a small squirrel who's riding around on the skeleton of a cat. Yeah. That is the DLC bit, and it's like right at the beginning. And I mean, his quest line involves an apocalyptic cult of squirrels who are trying to summon something called the Great Acorn, which will be the doom of all tall people.
So is that taller than a squirrel?
Bad news for me.
Tall compared to normal people like me? Because in that case, I don't know. Actually, it wouldn't be the same without you. I wouldn't kill you if there was an apocalyptic cult.
Cheers,
I'd keep
mate.
you alive. I didn't actually get to see Sir Laura. I was playing the game early. Thankfully, we got some press copies.
Yeah.
And they also had, so if you pre-ordered it on the Xbox and the PS4, you got access to the first act of the game.
Yes.
That happened 2 weeks before release, and that's when I was playing it as well. And I'm not sure if they patched Sir Laura in, like, on day one, because I played it and I didn't encounter Sir Laura at all in the first islands. And then on release, a couple of friends of ours got the game and they Sir Laura in the islands as soon as they start the game. So I don't know if it's missable and I missed it, or if I was just playing it because I was playing it before release, they hadn't quite patched him in yet. But unfortunately, I can't tell any first-hand exciting stories about Sir Laura. Well, so let's move on.
That's a shame. But that basically, that's not even really a headline. That's just like the DLC. They've called it a DLC, but they've added so much different stuff as well. I mean, to begin with, there's a story mode now, which is a new difficulty mode, which is even easier than the existing Explorer mode, which basically nullifies the combat entirely.
There's a lot to explore in this game, isn't there?
Yeah, and in their words, it's there. In the words of Larian Studios, it's there for you to just go through and soak up the atmosphere and the dialogue and stuff of the game and take in the story, because the game can be quite difficult. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, especially, it does put some brick walls in your way, and you could come up against a fight and think, I just can't do this. You're not strong enough level, and you don't know what you're doing next. So story mode is ideal for that, I guess.
Yeah, people that want to avoid combat, because there's new systems in the second game compared to the first Divinity Original Sin, like the armor system, where you're whittling away armors before you can do damage directly to the enemies, and that does change things because you have to approach different enemies in different ways. Some might be weak to magic attacks but strong against physical attacks, and although that challenge is very gratifying when you figure that out and you're on top of that, I think it's very satisfying combat. It might be a bit much for people between all the CRPG stuff that you get to do. Like there's always menus, there's an inventory open every 5 minutes in Divinity Original Sin, because there's so much stuff you pick up, you're reading, you're collecting, and add to that quite an intricate combat system. It could put people off to what is otherwise a very accessible, nice story, full of not like just humour, but some really
surprises
good intrigue
and stuff,
drama and that. So yeah, it's cool that they've managed to do that, because again, it's just an option. You don't have to play the easy mode. No. You can go hard, and the game is difficult. If you want a challenge, this is the game for you, you know?
So they've added 150,000 words of text to the game. They've recorded 130,000 actual words of dialogue. There's new situations in there. There's new kind of context, I guess, to the story. A lot of it relates to the latter stages, but it takes place in and around the city of Arx. And this is where the main complaints were coming from the original version of the game, because it just kind of lacked a lot of meat and context to a lot of what was going on. And a lot of the time, especially when we were playing it in co-op, like you could go through an area and then one party member might accidentally start speaking to an NPC, like finalize a quest. They didn't even realize that's what they were doing, and then all everyone sees is kind of a notification of XP and quest kind of update or whatever, because you've done the quest. But now they've kind of tried to add a lot more context and a lot more dialogue opportunities and a lot more kind of environmental details and hints, so you know what's coming, which is really nice. I really like that kind of. I mean, the environment in this game is one of my favourite things about it. I really like it. The game starts out on a ship. I mean, the ship is pretty cool, but it doesn't really take your breath away until you arrive on the beach in Fort Joy, and that's when it really comes alive, the game from that point. And I really like the way they've added to the story and added to the environmental design and stuff. It's a very nice thing to go in and add.
Yeah, it's because you don't have to do that, and it seems very unusual that as the game tapers off towards the end, the details were dropped. So to add more of that in again and just really bring it, because it's full of stuff like that, especially in Fort Joy and stuff like that. Every house looks different and has like things are there for a purpose and a reason, and you can be smart and logical and see what's ahead by looking at what's around you. And they just added, like you say, more of that in, and we saw some of that hands-on. We were at an event where they had an A and B of the
that's right,
original version
before the release of the final thing.
And the differences were very noticeable. And it just really brings up the ending, which quite a lot of the criticism was against, and just knocks it up just to where the rest of the game is, which is top tier RPG.
It's great. I mean, it's really good. I mean, I like the way that the story kind of unfurls as well. It's like it's got this investigative thing where you don't really know what you're doing and to begin with, and you just kind of, it does that RPG thing of just throwing you into the deep end almost, of like, here, this is the situation. You've got a collar around your neck. You're a prisoner. You don't, and the way that the party members are introduced and stuff, I really like like all that. So I like that they've gone, the beginning is good. The third act, or the last stages, we appreciate, a lot of people are saying it's just not up to scratch. And they've gone in there and they've done something about it. And I really like that. In terms of the combat as well, they said there's actual new fights in the game, which I can't remember, to be honest, which ones that I've seen.
I reckon I've seen 2 new ones, but here's the thing, right? This is like, so I did Fort Joy for the 5th time just recently on the Definitive Edition, and I can't tell if what I've seen is just in the game, and because I've played it 4 times, I'm noticing
maybe you just
every
missed
time.
it the first time.
Yeah, exactly, or if it's new. But I feel like I've seen between Act 1 and 2, 2 new fights at least, which is decent. But again, it speaks to the like versatility of the original game. Like you can do it that many times and still see new things. Genuinely, that's a testament to the game, the base game at all. So it's worth a replay.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. The other big change for me as well is the journal. The way they've changed that, because the journal was just like this stream of information, wasn't it?
It was very pen and paper. This happened and this happened, and it might be a hint you need to do something. Yeah, you're not quite sure.
It might just be some lore.
Exactly. That's the thing with situations in games like this. And the first game was very similar. Something happens. I don't know. Someone gets murdered. Is that the end of that little quest line? Yeah. Or are we going to find out who did it? And sometimes, especially if you're like a perfectionist or whatever, you might want to know, what happened? And
completionist. You want to tick stuff off and
exactly. And it helps with that. It kind of gamifies it a bit, makes it a little bit more modern. The fact that you've got the lore option now, where it's literally matter of fact. Okay, you went to Mordus's house. He's dead or whatever. And then there's like a bit more questy stuff where you can see, Sahala needs you to go and meet somebody on an island, and okay, that's something I need to watch out for when I go to the next island. A great way of just putting some subcategories in there, and it's something as simple as that. I'm not really giving it the credit it deserves by saying that. It makes it a lot easier to manage what you're doing. It also adds that little marker to find NPCs you've previously seen. It's not like some open world games where you just follow a marker. A marker only appears if you've already met somebody or a point of interest, but you might have forgotten who it was or where it was. Now you can easily look at the marker, go, okay, so that's where he is, and then you can go and find him.
I mean, that was one of my real problems with the first game, to be honest. It wasn't so much anything to do with the story or anything. It was that journal. We had, like, you literally were keeping the note of stuff on your desk with a pen and paper when we were playing a co-op.
Don't tell the boys. Don't tell the boys.
And we needed to kind of, it's that kind of game, I guess, really, but it's good that they've factored that into the game now, and that there's like an organised list of things that need doing, and also a list of information and a list of dialogues and all this stuff that's broken up a bit easier. It sounds like such a minor thing, but in a game like this, it is
stuff like that. Like the inventory's got little tweaks and stuff.
Stuff you're getting swamped, doesn't it?
It does. It's really easy to see where things are and just filtering all this information, because when you've got a lot of information, you need to start making ways of sorting. And stuff like if you've got a huge inventory, to be able to sort by value and price and stuff like that is super useful. So the fact that that's all in there is great.
The arena mode, this is the last kind of major addition, I guess. It's kind of a PvP area where teams of 1 to 4 players can control teams of 1 to 4 party members in a PvP arena, which is pretty cool. We've played a little bit of it. It's quite it feels like it makes sense, and I'm glad it's there, and you can just use characters from the...
Well, that's the thing. So the arena was in the original Divinity Original Sin 2, but it was generic. It was like you could play an archer, a rogue, a warrior. You couldn't play as like these characters if you've played the first Divinity Original Sin as well, or in fact any of the Divine Divinity games. So like there's 7 of them. Zandalore is in there, and like you've got other characters like Radica the Witch and like characters that you would have seen in the first area of Divinity Original Sin 2. You can play as them, which is cool. And with the Definitive Edition, there's like the hot seat mode, so you can now play couch co-op, like how the old school Worms games were, taking it in turns, passing the control around.
It's very easy to just play a bit of local couch co-op PvP. It's quite slow paced, I guess. That's one thing I would say about it. Especially when you're passing the controller between players, it can take a while to get through stuff.
Yeah, because if you've got a team of 3 characters, you don't control all 3, and then the enemy team control all 3. It's literally like you move one guy, then you pass the controller. We're doing a lot of that. I tried to play it online, but again, because I was playing it early, I would have only been playing with press, and I guess they didn't want to be playing PvP. So scared, weren't they?
They're scared of you. That's what it was.
That's it.
So let's get to the point then. Why do people need to play this game? Because I do think they do. This is, without a doubt, a future classic. It'll be remembered, I think, easily. Jake, you actually recommend this ahead of the actual classics at this point.
Yeah, big fan of CRPGs, always have been. Baldur's Gate 2, one of the best games I've made. I think that this game has like kind of not just dethroned it. Okay, now be careful before you call me a heretic. What I'm saying is, imagine you're a younger kid, 17, 18.
That is some comment section if they're throwing the word heretic.
Yeah, that's the RPG fans,
heretic.
man, so, yeah, they're gonna write me in as a bad guy, so I'm gonna be an orc in so many tabletop
Jake
games.
the heretic. That does sound like a Divinity character. Actually.
But I've got to say that Baldur's Gate 2 is fantastic as it is. Has obviously been the formula for a lot of these sorts of games. Dungeons and Dragons is the key to this all, but Baldur's Gate and others, Neverwinter Nights, paving a way for CRPGs. Larian Studios must have played those games when they were a bit younger, and they've been working their arse off to make the best version of it. And you know what? This is, if you want to find out everything good about a CRPG, you can find it in this. It's got a bit of everything. You might prefer the combat style of Pillars of Eternity or the party system or characters of a different game, but as a general all-rounder, this is the best example of a CRPG that I think there's ever been, and I've played loads of them.
Certainly got the most personality, I would say, as well.
It manages to capture that. You know, a lot of this sort of high fantasy lark is so serious. You're the accursed one, you know, and it can get a bit Dark Souls lore. But this is not afraid to, you know, make a game about turning people into chickens a little bit ridiculous. Yeah. You know what I mean? How are you going to be dead serious when you're talking to a bull who's got an accent like he's from Birmingham?
Well, that's the thing. They're not afraid of trying to put some twists on things as well. And the tropes, the CRPG and you know, general party-based RPG tropes of having a tank, a rogue, and they're still kind of there. But the way the class system is so open and so flexible, you end up with a tank who's, you know, addicted to the taste of blood, or a mage who happens to be pretty good with a mace. But
just wants to be a mage.
Yeah, it's
it doesn't like that mace to find him.
Exactly. It's really flexible, and the tropes and stuff are kind of undermined at every turn here. Every possible race you can have a lizard, human, dwarf, elf, whatever. You can play all of them as an undead. Yeah. So they're an undead elf, and if you heal them, it damages them because they're undead. So you need to poison them to heal them. And there's all that subversive stuff.
Yeah, and you know, people in the town don't want it. They're going to be scared seeing an undead human. So you have to put on a mask. You have to rip the face off somebody.
Yeah, where'd you get the mask?
Wear it yourself.
Dead bodies.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much logic to this, so much humour, and you've heard that we're big fans of it already. We're in fact such big fans that we are dedicating a whole series on this channel. Yeah. To a little bit of a special Let's Play, kind of. Don't call it a Let's Play, okay? Yeah. Let's not talk about it like this.
We're putting a lot of thought into it. It was actually one of the earlier things we wanted to do on the channel, but we've kind of had to put it on the back burner while we do everything else. But yeah, our plan in the near future, I guess, is to do a kind of a Don't Call It a Let's Play series of Divinity Original Sin 2, where we're trying to put a bit more elbow grease, a bit more kind of gloss on it, and
give you guys quite a funny set of stories.
Because it's not just going to be us booting it up and playing it.
There's loads of people that are out there that love the idea of games like this, but CRPGs are just something about it that it just doesn't get on. I think this is one of the most accessible, despite it being very, very deep and having a great.
It is at this point as well, with the story mode and again the flexibility of it all. It's a great game, man. Highly recommended. I would highly recommend it on the PC first and foremost, but if that's not an option for you, then absolutely go for the console versions. It does hold up with a controller. I mean, it's not quite as fluid for us, but we have played 50, 60 hours of it or whatever on PC. Over the last couple of months. So that's
just the nature of PC game. And it's untapped. And
it's more precise with the mouse and keyboard.
Exactly. And stuff. You can play couch co-op on the PS4 though. So if you want to play with your mate and you only want to buy one copy between you, brilliant.
Exactly. It's well worth it either way. But PC is, I guess, the most recommended. So that is Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition. If you've been playing it, let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. I think a lot of people have a lot to say about this if they've been playing it, especially if they're playing it for the first time, having waited a year if they don't have a PC. I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say about it, so let us know. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I've been Mike Williams and this was Jake Kulkowski. Thanks for watching this special moves video. We'll see you next time.